Ground. Michigan Congressman Thaddeus McCotter joins me now. Congressman, welcome. Great to see you.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So, I want to start with this idea that there's actually a compromise in place. Is there really a compromise in place, or are some people just talking out of both sides of their mouth?
Well, so far we've not had the Speaker come to us, or the leadership come to us with a compromise proposal that we can look at, read through, and find out whether or not we think it's in the best interest of the public or what the public elected us to do. So I think that there may be conversations going on, but I don't know there's anything in writing at this point.
Well, Democrats are saying that they've focused on $33 billion, and that's the compromise that everybody's agreed to, but not really, right?
Yes, we've heard differing things over the past several days, and you'll hear this in the heat of negotiations, where one side says that this is the number we've all compromised on, and the other says they weren't even in the room when that number was discussed.
It's amazing to me.
Yes.
All right, I want you to hear
it is a
something that
dysfunctional
the Speaker of the House said recently. I want to get you to react to it. It surprised me, frankly. He said, we're going to fight for all of the spending cuts that we can get. We control 1/2 of 1/3 of the government here in Washington. We can't impose our will on another body. We can't impose our will on the Senate. All we can do is to fight for all of the spending cuts that we can get an agreement to. Wow, that sounds really deflated to me.
Well, I think it's even out of context, but Speaker Boehner has always talked about the reality that we find ourselves that despite 2010, we can only control what happens in the U.S. House thanks to the voters. The Senate stayed in the same hands and the President did. But I also think John, on other occasions, has rightly pointed out that Republicans are doing everything we can to get the full cuts that we promised in the pledge as a start to what has to happen to get back on the path of fiscal sanity. The reality still remains, however, it is the Democratic Senate and the Democratic President and trying to impose their will on the House because they want to continue the record spending, or at least cement it in place in the last 2 years.
What will you go for? Will you require that it be $61 billion? Are you happy with 33? Where do you come out?
No, I think I'm bound by the 61 that was in the pledge, but other members will have different views of it. Plus, as we learned from the health care debate, you want to see what a bill. You want to make sure that you have a chance to talk to your constituents, and you want to cast the right vote for them.
All right, so a big conversation about whether the government's going to shut down next Friday. And, it's sort of looking iffy, if you ask me. I'm concerned. Are you? Let me give you a quote from somebody, Representative Mike Pence, saying, it's time to pick a fight. He seems ready to turn off the lights.
Yes, or enter into a cage match with Chuck Schumer. My money would be on Mike Pence, by the way.
But really, seriously, are the lights going to go off? Or is there going to be some kind of common ground found? Are you guys going to get down to business?
Well, I think they're down to business, but I think that the Speaker has made clear his personal belief that the government should not shut down. Others of us have a difference of opinion that if the Democrats want to shut it down because of their intransigence for higher spending, higher deficits, and higher debt, that the burden would be on them to show why that's a good idea, especially in light of the 2010 election. I do think that those are the dynamics at work. You have a lot of members that believe that we should stand our ground, and you have others who believe that the government shutdown would inure to their disadvantage.
I guess we're just going to have to wait and see on that. What I can ask you about, though, is Fannie and Freddie. Several bills introduced by House GOP members to not end, that's what surprised me, not end Fannie and Freddie necessarily, but to slowly increase fees, put employees on the government's pay scale. Some small moves that would constrain Fannie and Fred, but not shut them down altogether. Is that the right answer?
No, we've seen incredible leadership on this issue from people like Scott Garrett from New Jersey, who chairs the subcommittee that is dealing with this. We had a hearing today. We are committed to ending what constitutes something that is too big and failed, namely Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. We want to see if we put forward responsible legislation and get the public behind it, and that will happen. The last thing we want to do is to try to go by a gradualist approach that doesn't work, or shoot for too much and have it not happen. I think in the end, though, Jerry, you're going to be very happy with what Scott Garrett and our committee puts out.
Well, do you believe that there should be an interim period where we allow Fannie and Fred to operate until this housing market gets a little better anyway?
Well, I think they're under conservatorship now. And what you want to make sure is that when we get rid of it, that it's a clear and delineated break, and that what happens then is the private sector can kick in instead of having to continue to have the taxpayers carry this gaping hole in the federal budget. And I think that's the goal. We're also going to have to face the reality of trying to make sure that while the Democrats say they understand that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are too big and failed, we want to make sure that we can get enough support that the Senate feels compelled to end these as quickly as possible, and the President will sign it, which in fairness to him, he has shown a willingness to recognize the problem and has offered to potentially work with us towards a solution.
Well, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac Too big and failed. I like that. That makes a lot of sense. Congressman McCotter, thanks for your help today. We appreciate it.
Thanks again.